afternoon, and welcome to Jeff and the Rabbi. It's an historic week here at Jeff and the Rabbi. Some historic Supreme Court decisions, which we probably should discuss. Now, you have a constitutional right for gay marriage in this country, which is interesting thing in itself. And I got to tell you, my opinion on this, and I know this is kind of scary to say this, because it's to say that you're against something like this in society today is dangerous, because you can be called every kind of ist there is. There's probably some ists that I can be called that I've never heard of before. But hate speech, it is, and this might be hate speech, and I hope we don't get banned halfway through this here. My problem with it is this: I have nothing against gay people. I really don't, and I don't know. I don't care if they're gay. I don't care what they do. I really don't. They dress well. I really like that. They can do whatever they want. But we just made a constitutional amendment to say society now wants to change to say this is okay. Now, this just happened, before the 2012 election, when President Obama had his evolution in the middle of the campaign. This wasn't even considered. I mean, now, if you are against this, you are a moron, an idiot, complete homophobe, and literally don't even deserve to have a job or go to school. And we see immediately what happens after this. Now, transgender, we now have to, which I'm going to be honest with you, and this is something else I hate to admit on this huge live broadcast here, I have never heard the term transgender before, maybe 6-8 months ago. I've heard of transvestite, I've heard of tranny, I just never heard transgender. And now I hear there's a transgender community. I'm thinking, what did I miss? Do they have like socials, cruises? Do they have these things?
I'll tell you the truth, I'm not exactly even sure what it means even.
I don't either, and the sad thing is,
I'm so out of it.
But I don't think you're alone.
My cloistered environment that I've been raised in.
Most people don't know what it means either, but they're too scared to say that because you'd be called an idiot.
Right.
And it's almost like the emperor's new clothes thing here. Oh, no, he looks great in his new clothes. He's naked. And I'm telling you, most of the people I think know it and are too scared to say anything about it. And why it's so dangerous, this whole thing about the gay marriage ruling, is because from here we now understand that the new civil rights, according to the Attorney General, is transgender, which is 0.01% of the people. So your kids, well, not your kids because they go to different kinds of schools, your grandkids, will have to go to school now where there's not a boys' room or a girls' room, but there's just a room, and they can play on any team, and you're not allowed to call them a boy, you're not allowed to call them a girl, because this 0.001% of the population might be discriminated against. And we have situations where it goes further than that, where the Sisters of the Poor, these nuns that have a organization, a hospice organization, now the federal government is going after them to make sure that they offer contraceptives to their people that work for them. Because, that's even though they're a private organization, obviously, they're not a federal company, we have to make sure that we protect the rights of everybody. And
do they have to offer contraceptives to the patients who are in hospice?
I think so too. I think that's part of the deal here. So you see, my point is, I don't care if you're transgendered. I don't care if you're gay. I don't care if you're black or white. But when somebody comes up and says, "Hands up, don't shoot," and we're all too scared to say, "Wait a minute, the guy didn't have his hands up when he shoot," because we're too scared to be called a racist. Society is on a downward spiral, and I think the progressive downward spirals of our society is more dangerous than ISIS, more dangerous, I shouldn't even say that, even more dangerous than climate change.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm really taking a step out here.
Yeah.
Society is in trouble. That's when you're going far.
Yeah.
We are so scared of being called stupid, dumb, racist, morons. We're good people in America, and we're so scared of being called out that we're allowing society to change, and I think this is what precedes the end of society. Gay marriage, I don't care that they're gay, but when we say there are no values, no rules, no boundaries in society, society has no chance of surviving.
Well, first of all, people you are immediately discredited, and whatever you said gets immediately discredited by all the people that go, he's another one of these, the sky is falling, the earth is all over, and it's all going to end, and all that stuff. Which is, if you look at the whole trajectory of this is a planned approach, which is promoted step by step by step, and I think we've talked about this before, and we come to this point now, and a big part of moving the whole movement forward is by casting anyone that speaks out negatively as undermining their credibility with simple things like, you're the homophobe, or all kinds of name. It's merely name calling.
Right.
It reduces to name calling. Anyone, people have made a big deal out of people. People say, "Oh, this is the end of the world." Well, first of all, people have been saying this type of thing is the end of the world for a long time. I think it's been mentioned on this very show. Yep. But, it's a time for us to always go back and review, get back to our sources.
Okay.
I'm supposed to be doing the Torah angle here,
yep.
So I'm going to bring the Torah sources. So we have something called the Midrash. The Midrash is a collection of oral teachings that was written down around the year 2 to 300. And there are two places in the Midrash, both discussing the flood. The famous flood, the world had become degenerate, and God brought a flood, and he saved only Noah. You saw the movie and all that stuff, right?
No, the movie didn't show that. It's totally different. Yeah.
So God flooded out the world. The Medrash says in two different places, and since I happen to have it right here, before I walked in the door, I'm going to give you my two sources. In Genesis, Rabbah, that's a collection of Medrash, chapter 26, entry 5, and in Leviticus, Rabbah, chapter 23, entry 9. It said, Rav Huna says, in the name of Rav Joseph, the generation of the flood was not wiped out until they wrote marriage documents for the union of a male to a male or to an animal.
Well, okay.
Okay, so once they started marrying men to men, marrying. Now, it doesn't say that they were wiped out because people started having homosexual relations or that they started having bestial relations. Bestial relations and homosexual relations probably went back as far as who knows how far back they go. A long way. And there's always been homosexuality around, and there's always been bestiality around. People will do all kinds of things, and as a matter of fact, the very fact that it is prohibited, King Solomon told us that stolen waters taste sweeter. So there's always something to that, and perhaps, as a matter of fact, the more that this becomes permitted, maybe it'll taste less sweet. I don't know. But the fact is that this has been around for a long time. These predictions that this brings about a calamity in society. There's also a passage in the Talmud that talks about the fact that homosexuality has been around, but as long as they didn't write marriage documents, then society can function. Because as long as you don't write a marriage document, it is a personal desire. Now, we have lots of desires. They might be acceptable, they might not be acceptable, but the society functions on, carries on, regardless of what the individual wants to do. Once the society is so motivated as to formalize the relationship in a union which is officially recognized by society, then that society has taken a huge leap forward. And it has gone against some fundamental tenets, such as the very creation story, wherein God says after he creates Eve and brings her to Adam, God says the very first thing he ever says, be fruitful and multiply and fill up the world. What that does is it sets in motion a process whereas men are supposed to marry women and have families and so on and so forth. This undermines that very nature, and therefore when societies embrace this, that bodes very ill for society. And that's what brought us to the generation of the flood. That's why this particular move that happened the other day was very serious. Very serious. Now, it's even more serious because it is, and you'll say, well, again, I'm being extreme and extremist and moralizing and all that. But we talk about this. Why would homosexuals want the right to be married? Now, why? Let's look at the world today. Do heterosexuals want the right to be married?
No.
It seems as though more and more people are choosing not to get married.
And also about 60% of people are probably getting divorced.
And people are getting divorced. It's certainly more than half.
Right.
More than half of all marriages are ending in divorce, and the numbers are going up.
Right.
So it seems as though marriage is not all that popular. People are not looking to get married. As a matter of fact, people are really looking, if they could, to not have to get married. Most people. People are getting married, are stopping to get married. So why would particularly homosexuals want the right to get married? And you'll say, well, of course, there's the argument of the benefits, financial benefits. Well, there are domestic partner laws.
You can have those, right.
Domestic partner laws are all over the place. They're all over the place. Everyone's had domestic partner laws. So now, by the way, and what happens to domestic partner laws? Now that there is marriage for everyone, what is a domestic partner law?
It really makes no sense anymore.
What is that worth, right?
I can hang out with anybody I want.
If I have a domestic partner law is much better than marriage because it gives me everything that I want financially and none of the obligations.
I like that.
So why would you want to get married? There's really only one reason that you want to get married. And I'm going to go back to something I've said before. You can always tell what a person's issue is by the way they define themselves. You know, would I define myself? I'm not saying I define myself as a Jew. Okay, I'm a Jew. That means a lot to me, right? I'm a Jew. If I define myself as gay, the word gay, what does that mean? Happy. Why would you pick a word like that? Say I'm happy.
Well, that's what it means.
It seems to indicate to me that it's because you're not happy. That's the bottom line. If you pick is it homosexual, something having to do with your sexual, with the way that you sexually interact with other people, I mean, that's what it's really all about. Why is that? Are gay people happy? Are they happier than other people? Or is it actually that they're less happy? And that the idea of marriage is a statement that they need to make, that they need desperately the acquiescence of the surrounding society to tell them that they are okay, which means that they're really very sad people, because anyone that needs other people to tell you that you're okay is really in sad shape.
No, I understand that. I agree.
I teach my kids, you got to know that you're okay, not defined by what everyone else is saying, because if everyone else is saying that you're only okay if you do this or you do that, or you're only okay if we accept you. As Jews, we learned a long time ago that, we got to be who we are regardless of what the world thinks about us. If they like us or they don't like us, it really doesn't matter. You got to be your own people.
So if I'm not worried about it, then I can be gay too?
Yes. There you go. You can be happy. I can also be happy.
Okay.
Right. Is it possible? Can heterosexuals be gay?
No.
Can you be happy, or can you only be happy if you're homosexual? The whole thing is preposterous. So what we have here is that a group of people is forcing a society to accept them. And guess what? When you need someone else to accept you, now, I can understand if there really was some practical difference, but like I said before, after you've got all the domestic partnership and all that type of stuff, after you got all that, and after they're already allowing homosexual couples to adopt and everything like that, so after you have all of those things, then what do you want other than acceptance? I mean, literally, marriage, what are the benefits? I know divorce attorneys, they're drooling over this. Divorce attorneys, they're loving this to pieces because this is just great. I mean, more people marrying, more people divorcing. It's fantastic. Right. I mean, all the homosexuals should get married so that 60% of them can now get divorced. I mean,
right. I think that the whole point is, and I assume the people who wrote the Talmud and who the Sanhedrin back then, I don't know if they understood progressivism or not, but what happens from this is now, I mean, and I get exactly what you're saying about gay people, but now we find even this smaller group of people that wear women's clothing, and that I'm okay with them wearing women's clothing. I think that probably helps the Victoria's Secret and places like that. They sell a lot more women's underwear. I think it's a great thing. But the point of the matter is, I think it's exactly what you said. You have to accept us too. You have to accept us so much that you have to change the way you behave in society. You no longer can call yourself a boy and a girl because that's not fair to me. Right. And I think that's what the danger, the added danger to this is, where does it end?
Exactly. So therefore, at this point, I think where we're at this juncture in societal history, this is a point where it's time for people to stop being quiet, to stop being afraid to be labeled as haters. Because as we've seen the trajectory, once upon a time, it was like, why do you have to hate them? Just live and let live. Don't ask, don't tell. Isn't that quaint? We think about how don't ask, don't tell. A quaint little relic of 20 years ago, right?
Right. Well, we just got rid of it about 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
It seems like such a quaint relic. At the time, who would have said marriage? Marriage? That would be preposterous. But we've seen how everything's moved along with, it seems as though lightning speed.
Lightning speed, yes.
So if things are moving along lightning speed, so we now have to express the rights of people who don't believe. For example, the rights of people who believe in the Bible, which says that homosexuality is an abomination, regardless of how more liberal trends within the Bible want to redefine it. And they do redefine it, which is kind of bothersome, because why do they redefine that? Do they redefine stealing? It says, thou shalt not steal.
Well, actually, yeah, they have been doing that too.
Right.
And murder.
And murder and adultery and so on and so forth. But, I always bothers me, like, why redefine it? Why not just say, the Bible is an ancient relic of another time and another place. We don't believe in that anymore.
Well, but they do, and that's the problem, is their college professor does tell them that. Their high school professor tells them that. The kids around the block, especially if you lived in the Northeast, you're pretty dumb right now if you believe in the Bible, that old relic of the past.
We had a local, one of the local more liberal rabbis, he may take great pains to show that that's not how they interpret the Bible. And the Bible, even though it says that homosexuality is an abomination, that's not how they interpret it. Now, and which bothers me is just, I understand you don't have to believe in the Bible and you don't have to live by the Bible. You have the right to do whatever you want, but why redefine the Bible? And what's the purpose of that? But either way, those people that don't redefine the Bible, and those people, such as myself, that have the traditional reading of the Bible, that say that it's an abomination, and we want to teach that to our children, and we want to believe that. So where are we in this society? So at this point, it's really difficult, and it's this point I think it's the gloves are off. There's no sense being quiet anymore. We have to speak up actively to demand our rights also in a society to not believe in it, our right to not embrace it.
So I think you've hit on the whole point. My issue always with this progressive situation and this issue with the homosexuality and with transgender is not that I care about them having the rights to do whatever they want to do, but the real purpose of this is to deny you and to deny me the right to think the other way, because if you do, then you're really not accepting them. And that's the real purpose here, is we need to end this. Why do you think the government is going after the little sisters of the poor? I mean, come on, you can't find an example more of someone who obviously has the desire not to allow their people to have contraceptives. They're nuns. I mean, I got a couple jokes about it. Well, I can tell that later. But they don't believe in this. So, but the point is, why can't we just leave these nuns alone? I mean, come on. We really care that the nuns don't hand out contraceptives to their employees, who probably don't want them anyway. The whole goal here is to deny the people like you, like me, who believe this, our rights to believe this. And you're right, people have to stand up. But just like in the Emperor's New Clothes story there, no one wants to do it because then we're stupid, we're racist, we're morons. And I'm too scared to stand up and say something. So I agree with you that the real movement, the silent majority out here, and it is the majority of people right now, the majority of people do not agree with, I'm not saying they don't agree with homosexual marriage, they do not agree with the way the country is going right now, but they're too scared to stand up and be called out as a racist, as a homophobe, as a sexist.
Right. So it's time to stand up. The first place you stand up is by articulating your views and your beliefs to your children, to your fellows, and even to yourself, to review. People may be performing homosexual marriages. I happen to believe that that's an abomination. If this country says it's legal, they can say it's legal. I can still believe it's an abomination. By the way, the country says that people have a right to have an abortion. I can still believe that that's a horrible thing to do, even though the country says that it's totally legal. I can believe it's a horrible thing to do.
I'm confused. How can you, as a religious person, as a person who gets who has that religious right by our government, given that right by our government, you have tax credits, you have different situations like that. How can you not perform a gay marriage now?
Right now, it is because there was an act passed by Congress the RFLA laws that guarantee me that right. Now, that's only right now. Because
it doesn't ensure that baker who's religious, who doesn't want to
right, that's true. That's right. So the baker is stuck. The baker is really in a bad place. At least the rabbi right now is still guaranteed. Now, of course, that law can be repealed in a flash because there used to be sodomy laws on the books. That didn't take too long for them to get repealed once people were interested in that. So right now what they're fighting is there are people that want to enact those laws on a state level, because they're a federal level. And as I just heard one of the spokesmen for the minority in Congress here in the state of Georgia was saying we don't need a state law because there's a federal law and they have all their protections from the federal law. And of course, the federal law can be overturned in a flash. So, anyway.
You are getting federal money. I mean, because you have certain tax credits. I mean, I think that's one of the things that's on the radar that's coming down the road.
Absolutely, that's coming up. That is coming up, and that will be determined. That the tax exemptions and various tax exempt status for donations and all that stuff, that is on the chopping block, and that is on the way out. As a matter of fact, it'll have to be on the way out because the day after everyone gets married, and they turn around and they find out, I still don't feel any better than I did yesterday. What now? I still do not feel gay. I'm not happy because I still know that there are people out there that don't accept me. And as long as there's someone that doesn't accept me, I'm still not happy. So that will be the next thing that's coming up. And that's why, at this point, it is appropriate for people who want to hold on to some of those rights that they have to advocate on behalf of putting safeguards and protections in to hold on to them, although I don't think anything's really going to help.
Well, that's my question to you. What do people do? Because I still believe, I'm not saying the gay marriage question, but the majority of the people in this country, I think, still believe in God. The majority of people in this country, deep down, are looking at what's going on here. And they're not going to say it to their neighbors, maybe not even to their family members. Wow, this is crazy. I mean, I'm sure the Times Man or Woman of the Year is going to be Bruce Jenner or Caitlyn Jenner. And nothing against him or her or however we're looking at it. I don't care. People are saying society is unraveling a lot faster than I thought. What do these people do? I mean, as I told you, I've got cousins up in Washington who lived in Washington for 40 years who won't say Redskins anymore. Now, they were talked about the Redskins 2 years ago, but then somebody told them they can't say Redskins anymore, so they don't call them. Where is this going to end? Because they're too scared to be called racist.
I guess someone probably needs to come up with a straight flag and straight colors, and then people can start flying straight colors and start feeling a sense of pride in who they are and what they are. That I'm proud.
Is that pastel or what kind of colors are straight?
Yeah, I don't know. Like
not shiny.
Yeah, very bold colors, right? And maybe one. Just one color, not rainbow, right? Oh, one color.
Right.
White. I don't know what color it would be. Black. Who knows? The fact is, though, that it cannot stop. It cannot stop until ultimately. Be one of those prophets of doom until ultimately, unless the society can stop it, it's a train wreck because the society will become absolutely obsessed with the baker baking the homosexual wedding cake.
We're there.
Even as
ISIS is on
ISIS is at the door, and China is asking us to pay up all of our debt, and we're going down the tubes.
Well, I guess we're kind of there, as I said, is because the president did tell in a speech to the I think it was the Coast Guard that our biggest security risk right now is climate change. So I guess we are kind of not ISIS, not China, not anywhere else. So I guess we are kind of don't watch this hand as this hand's over here picking your pocket, and it's trouble. And I agree. So that's why I know right now, if people if anybody, my Facebook friends are watching, saying, "Oh my God, what a horrible bigot." This is not bigotry. I at least I think I understand progressivism. I think I understand where this is going. This is a troublesome situation.
It's a troublesome situation, and the way to counteract that is, as I said, to reaffirm fundamental beliefs. And fundamental beliefs are that even if the government says that something is totally legal, You can believe that that is wrong. You can believe that that is morally wrong. It wouldn't be the first time that the government has made a morally inappropriate decision. Generally, the decisions of the Supreme Court and the government finds in favor of those that however they perceive society to be, whatever society is leaning towards.
Not supposed to go that way.
We haven't always looked at society, and we have oftentimes gone against the stream and swim against the stream and go against what is popular. You know, if the Torah, when the Torah said, for example, that homosexuality is an abomination, that didn't mean that there aren't people that want to do it, just the opposite. The Torah recognized full well that there are lots of people that want to do that. The Torah said you shouldn't do that, even though you want to do that. The Torah never said don't eat dirt, because no one really has a desire to eat dirt. Right. If the Torah says don't do it, what the Torah means is, I know you have a desire to do it, don't do it anyway, because you have to sublimate desires and control them to move towards a godly goal, which is a path that the Torah has laid out for us. So we have to recognize that, reiterate it, turn back inward, reconfirm our fundamental beliefs, and move forward from there, ready to be able to publicly articulate our beliefs, even though they are in the minority, and even though they are not in the mainstream, they're no longer accepted. And, you know, religious freedom is probably gone. And, religious freedom is there as long as your religious beliefs happen to believe in whatever the state believes in.
Right.
And it's going to be a time for people of religion and people of beliefs to get ready to articulate their beliefs, even though they go against the mainstream. And it won't be the first time that there'll be religious persecution. And people of faith believe and understand that, and they're going to stick by their faith, even if persecuted.
So who's our new Judah Maccabee? Are you the guy? Are you coming out there? Are you?
You know, it'll happen. It'll happen when the time comes. You know, in the times of Judah Maccabee, you know, they pushed him. So Jerusalem went idolatrous. Right. So they packed up and they moved out to the hills. Right. Then one day they showed up out there in a little village up in the hills, and they said, "Oh, here we are. Here with our idolatrous service, came to you in the hills.
We're going to follow you anywhere you go."
Judah said, "Hey, we left town. We gave you the city, but at least give us the hill." No. We're up here in the hills. And at that point, there was an insurrection.
Well, maybe that's going to happen.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, something does have to happen, right there is the time where people are going to have to stand up and say, enough. And is that going to be now?
So now is the time to actually put in place those safeguards that we can to try to maintain what we have. Maybe we won't be able to, but we have to vigorously and forcefully articulate what's our position and what are the freedoms that others are expected to have, because, as always happens, every time there is a revolution, the revolution turns into a tyranny. And we've seen a revolution in morals right here, and those morals are poised to turn into a tyranny.
So I guess the point he's making, if we don't win this, it would be a bad time to be a Chihuahua, because I think they're next. I think that bestiality is next in the thing. So that wouldn't be good.
Yeah.
Well, interesting situation. From what I've learned from this is I'm probably the only truly gay individual we have in this country. I'm happy as can be. I'm satisfied. I'm as gay as can be.
And
so
even if,
we got the flag
and even if no one agrees with you, right? You still got to be.
I'm gay and happy.
I'm happy for me.
Right.
I don't care what you think.
Right. So that's it.
Right.
This is a serious situation. I assume we'll probably be talking about it more, because I think before the next year's out there, we will see the next progression in this. And I don't think this is done yet, unless, as Rabbi Freeman says, we put our foot down and we stand up and we raise our voices and let people know this is not gonna stand.
Yeah.
All right. Very interesting conversation. I'm sure we'll talk about it more the next episode of Jeff and the Rabbi.
All right.